Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Throughout the first weekend of the beta for Black Ops 6, put a lot of time in, adjusted a lot of things, tested a lot of things. And so with that today, I want to go through and revisit the absolute best controller settings you want to be running. If you are playing the beta for the first time as a part of the open weekend, or perhaps you're returning from weekend one to play a little bit more, test out some of the new guns and hit the new level cap, you may want to adjust some settings to really optimize your experience. I've tested a lot of different things and found some ways to really, in my opinion, enhance your aiming experience, your movement, pretty much just fully optimize your entire controller gameplay. So that said, we got a couple of different categories here: controller, aiming, movement, and combat. Each one very, very important. The basic controller settings here, relatively straightforward as always with the button layout, just like we talked about last week. The most ideal way to go through is first, check all the default presets here. Tactical works just fine for me, so I can use my right thumbstick to slide cancel. I use my paddle on the back for my melee and everything. But if there's a certain, preset that works well and does exactly what you want for your controller setup, feel free to use one of these. But the easiest way to go through and just make sure every button is doing exactly what you want is to just reset a keybind here by using a custom button layout. So you can go through and adjust any of this to do whatever you want, and that's super quick and super simple there. I wouldn't recommend changing anything with stick layout preset unless you already do that in other CODs, of course. My sensitivity, I have adjusted a little bit. Initially, I was playing on 9.8, and I felt like my aim was all right, but I wasn't really super accurate like I've been in the past. And also, we are well aware now of the aim assist nerf for the close range. So when you are within 3 meters or so of an enemy, so say you turn a corner and there's a guy right there, you might lose aim assist. Sometimes you don't want a higher sensitivity in that case because you're so used to that aim assist slowdown. With no aim assist, you're just going to be spinning around and missing all your shots. So I've actually dropped my sensitivity a little bit. I go down to an 8.6 now. Usually I don't stagger by 2, but after testing a lot of different sensitivities, I found my aim to be the most accurate when on an 8 horizontal, 6 vertical. You're obviously looking around a lot more horizontally than you are vertically in most cases, and this really made it seem like I was the most accurate in all my gunfights across a variety of weapons, rifles, SMGs, whatever the case might have been. I keep simplified controls, motor strain, bumper ping, and then swapping L1 and L2 all off there. If you want to change those, it's mostly a matter of preference, or in certain situations, maybe an accessibility thing with low motor strain. That's more of an individualized case there for sure. Vibration, we don't want that on. Trigger effect, if you have this like a PS5 controller, you do not want that on. And then just like I mentioned last week, dead zone input is super, super important. By adjusting this, you can make sure you have the max aim assist stickiness, and so it's going to be the easiest to stay on target. The first thing you want to do to check your dead zones is to drop the left stick min down to 0, then also the right stick min down to 0. Turn on the test, see initially what's going on with your dead zones. You can see I've got 4% on my vertical for my left stick and about 1% on my right stick. You also want to move them around and then let them go and see what changes, because sometimes that value will be different. So for my right stick, for instance, I want to jump this up to 4. It was hovering around 2 to 3 there. 4 is going to make sure I don't have any random stick drift on my right stick. I do want stick drift on my left one though, because that's what's going to activate that rotational aim assist. So I just leave this at 1. That way when I do the test now, you can see after I start moving it, it sometimes still hovers there and it's going between 0 and 1%. This means that occasionally my left stick will pick up that input and have that slight bit of stick drift. And when your left stick is moving at all, even if it's that 1% movement, that's what's going to activate rotational aim assist. So it just makes it easier to aim. You could also drop down that left stick max to 60 as I do here, so the range of motion isn't as large as it needs to be to actually hit that max zone there, and that'll also help out with activating that aim assist as well. Then you also want to turn your left trigger and your right trigger all the way down to 0. That way as soon as you hit that actuation point on your trigger, it'll start firing your weapon so you can spam it as fast as possible. We then get into our aiming settings here, and I've also adjusted several things here to be a bit more accurate. For sensitivity multiplier, I am still leaving all this based on 1. You realize my ADS sense is actually locked because I do go through and manually adjust this in the advanced settings. I leave look inversion at standard, and then we jump into the advanced ones here. Again, look inversion, same old, same old. Transition timing, this is an important one. If you are on controller, you can have this as instant, and the moment you ADS, your sensitivity will change. There is an ongoing issue with keyboard and mouse, and I imagine throughout the weekend they'll adjust it as well, because it was on the Trello already for the past week, where on keyboard and mouse, if you have this at instant, it'll actually slow it down too much and it's bugged out, so you need to change that to gradual. But for controller, instant's been fine for me. Aim response curve type, I've tested out linear and dynamic still absolutely feels the stickiest. It is a little weird. If you were to go through and import your settings settings from like MW3 when you boot up the game, it's going to change some of these to other options. Like my sensitivity was increased. It actually changed mine to linear, but after playing, I definitely felt the snappiest and the most responsive with dynamic, and I put in a decent amount of time on each of those, and dynamic definitely the way to go, at least from my gameplay experience there. And then the big thing here is custom sensitivity per zoom. Initially I was on 0.85 for all my low zoom stuff, then I gradually increased that. Now I just you know, go down one more tier. So low zoom for me is 0.8, and then 2 to 3 0.85, same deal with 4 to 5 times, same deal with 6 to 7, and then 8 to 9 in high zoom I increase a little bit at 0.9 and then 1. The reason for that is that when you're using a red dot or, you know, a hollow or iron sights, you want to have that more precise aim when you're ADSing. By having a slower sensitivity, it'll be a lot easier to stay on target. And then same deal with that close range lack of aim assist. When you do ADS, if you're not getting the aim assist there, you don't want this to be too fast where you're just like swiveling back and forth and missing shots. So that definitely helped perfect things there as well. Other basic stuff in the aiming settings here: target aim assist you obviously want on. Then motion sensor stuff is just all preference. Like if you were familiar with gyro aiming, you've already gone through and set that up. That's a super niche thing and definitely not a universal thing by any means. We then have our movement updates here, and there's some important things here too. And quick reminders, we are going through all the controller settings here today. If you enjoy the video, if you find this helpful at all, a like rating is seriously appreciated. It does really help the channel grow. Our last settings video with all the basic stuff between graphics and audio and controller and whatnot actually made YouTube trending because you guys were showing so much support on it. So if you do enjoy this, likes always really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you're up to date with everything going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. So big thing here that a lot of players initially missed is under the sprint assist, there's actually the tac sprint assist option. And for tac sprint to actually activate consistently, similar to auto tac sprint in like MW3 and Warzone, you want to turn tac sprint assist on and then go into the show more options and adjust this sprint delay. Now, if you are straight up just on controller and you go through to adjust this, you're going to realize you can only change it in increments of 100. And when you go down and you turn it to 0, sometimes it doesn't activate correctly. So what you actually have to do for this is go through, and you can't even use your mouse slider, but instead you actually have to type. And then it seems like through a lot of the testing the community's done, changing this to 1 or changing this to 2 is what's going to give you the most responsive tac sprint or auto tac sprint like feel. So definitely go through and adjust that. That'll make it so that your movement's a lot more seamless. I keep on both with these other sprint assists. Mantle assist, not a fan of that. I don't want any mantling happening when I don't want it to. Then same deal with crouching as well. Airborne automatic mantle kind of falls under the same thing. I want to be in full control of all of my mantles there. Slide and dive behavior, I'm on hybrid. I've gone back and forth with tap to slide. Unfortunately with this, there is a slight delay. When you go to slide, even though it's on tap, the controller in the game still has to recognize, is he tapping or is he holding? And so there's a slight delay there. It's not super significant, but I noticed it after being on slide only for the past year on MW3 and Warzone. So hybrid is the best way to go through. It's an instant slide, and then you can just hold both sticks to dive there when you want. And you obviously want to dive because it's pretty important with omni movement. Auto door peek I keep on. We then get into the advanced settings for movement. So sprint behavior, toggle, auto move forward off, grounded mantle off. Sprint restore I do have on here. So sprint restore allows you to resume sprinting after various actions without having to press your left thumbstick. Basically just means you'll be sprinting at any possible chance you can. Slide maintain sprint is also an important one. When you import your settings, because in MW3 the setting was to have slide cancel sprint, it may turn this off like it did for me, and I was like, oh okay, that's what I used before. But if you turn this on, it's going to make your slide cancels and your seamlessness there going from sprinting to sliding back to sprinting or into jumping a lot smoother. So turn this on, you won't have nearly as many dead slides or anything like that. Single tap sprint, trigger for plunging underwater, and then automatic door bash I have on. And with the vehicle advanced settings, not really changing anything super significant there. Quick reminder as well, everyone, if you are trying to stock up on some G Fuel for obviously the launch of Black Ops 6 here pretty soon, or even Season 6 here within MW3 and Warzone, throw in code Immortal at checkout, and that'll get you a nice little discount on everything on the G Fuel site. Link will be down below in the description. We then get into, finally, our combat settings here. So ADS behavior is obviously going to be on a hold. I like my weapon mount activation as ADS and melee. I'll never accidentally press that, so it's super easy. C4 is grouped detonation, hold for my equipment. manual press on the fire behavior. Then we get our advanced settings here. So my D-pad, I still keep as ping. I don't find myself pinging all that much, but it's nice to have it. And it's cool that you can change it to actually change your streak cycling if you want, but pinging is going to be, I think, what most people are familiar with. Changing the zoom on your scopes, I have just my sprint button, but that's all preference based. Short delay on the weapon mount exit. Tap to reload is what I found is going to allow you to reload the most and never accidentally pick up a weapon. So I have to hold to pick up a weapon. There's not much you have to do to interact on the map outside of like maybe picking up an assault pack or turning on the security or something on Skyline. So if you just want to have it where you're always reloading and never accidentally picking up a weapon, this or prioritize reload are the way to go. Off for sprint cancels reload. You can have that on if you really care about that function, but I personally don't. I just YY out of a reload. That's my sort of muscle memory there. Off for ADS stick swap. Off for depleted ammo weapon switch. Numerical order on your streaks. Hold for my melee so I can switch over to that super quick. And then off for the body swap on the meat shield and execution behavior there. Scoreboard I have on toggle. Then for the overlay advanced settings here, I just keep moderate, and hold. That's not really super important stuff, all things considered. So a couple of things you definitely want to update if you peeped the settings video from last weekend. I've gone through, adjusted some things, or if you're just jumping in for the first time, definitely want to make sure you've got some of these things set up in a specific way so you can have the most optimal gameplay experience. If you're looking for audio settings, graphic settings, the general other stuff here, I broke all that down last week and all that's still up to date, but did change a handful of things with controller settings. I want to make sure you guys had the most up-to-date information. So if you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, be sure to drop a like on it. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button on your way out so you can always guarantee you're up to date with absolutely everything going on in the world of Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.